Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wildstorm Addiction Podcast. This is episode number 1 for the weeks of 4/14 and 4/21. And tonight we will be covering all sorts of Wildstorm goodness. We have reviews of Gen 13 number 35 and Dv8 Gods and Monsters number 1.
And we also have lots and lots of news that came out of C2E2 this past week, so we're going to go ahead and cover that first. But real quick, just want to take a chance to thank everybody who listened to our episode 0. We got a lot of positive comments out there around the net, and want to thank everybody who encouraged us and who took the time to download and listen. And as we go along here, we want to just keep making this fun for you guys, and obviously want to share the Wildstorm love. First off, coming out of Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo, also known as C2E2, which to me sounds like a Star Wars droid.
Sure does.
And the funny thing is, you go to the website and it looks like they have it saying C squared, E squared, which I wonder if that's what they wanted. I don't know. I couldn't really find anybody discussing that anywhere, but I thought that was funny. So C2E2 has a nice ring to it, though.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad. I lived in Chicago for about 3 years and I never got to this show.
Oh, really? I didn't even...
Yeah.
I haven't really heard anything about this show much before. I don't know. Maybe it's because this had so much Wildstorm stuff that I was really paying attention this time. I don't know, but...
Yeah, me neither.
So I guess it's... is it fairly new or has been there for a while? Do you know?
I really have no idea.
Yeah. So as you can tell, we're the foremost authority on C2E2.
Yeah, right. You heard it here first.
Yeah. But anyway, just to kind of review some of the things that they talked about at the con. In the regular Wildstorm universe, nothing really new, nothing that we didn't already know. The Authority books are going to continue with the carrier continuing in space and unraveling more of that mystery. And I did see in the solicits, though, that even though we lost the writing team, artist Alabari Nuevo is going to be back. I think in July is when I saw that he's going to be back in the book. So that's cool because I really like his art.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, so it's good to see he's coming back. The Wildcats are obviously still on Earth, still doing their thing. They're going to continue 3-issue arcs. I think the next one's called The Protectorate. And Gen 13, which we'll discuss tonight, are out on their own. They're no longer involved in the events of Wildcats and the Authority. And we'll talk more about that tonight. One thing that I know Wildstorm fans are really excited about, I know I am, is Gail Simone's coming back to her Welcome to Tranquility series with her One Foot in the Grave 6-issue miniseries, which starts in July. And if you guys have never checked out that series, it's really good. And you really don't need to know the Wildstorm universe to enjoy it. It is out in trades. It's in 2 trades if you want to catch up, because this story takes place right after the last series ended. And Horatio Dominguez is going to be providing the art, and I've seen some of his preview art, and it's really good. So.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I love those characters. One of the good things to come out of the Wildstorm line from 06. And next up is just a couple of things that we'll be talking about here in coming shows in the next few weeks. Garrison by Jeff Mariotti, I think is how you say it, and Francisco Francavilla is going to be drawing it. So we'll be covering Garrison. It's a creator-owned project, and we'll be covering that, I think, the next podcast, if I'm not mistaken. And Astro City, another fan favorite, is going to be taking a short break after the Dark Age is done. But it's going to be returning with a monthly series, which I was actually surprised they're going to go to a monthly series. And it said, with no delays promised. So that's cool. I mean, Wildstorm has done pretty good with not soliciting anything that's not done.
That's true. For the last 2 years, they've been really good about that.
Yeah. And it's been weird for some titles, like Resident Evil, for example, which has had 5 issues in those 2 years, I think.
Yeah,
But hey, they never solicited it until it was ready, each issue.
that's right.
So, and also another fan favorite, one of Alan Moore's creations, Tom Strong is returning in a book called Tom Strong and the Robots of Doom, which comes out in June. I mean, that's the title right there. That's that's kind of like old school Flash Gordon type of stuff, And that's on my read list, is to catch up on Tom Strong. So. Moving right along, because we do when I say we had a lot of announcements, we had a lot of announcements. I mean, it really was heavy on the Wildstorm announcements. Ex Machina is ending soon. Number 50, I think, comes out in July, if I'm not mistaken. But the artist on that, Tony Harris, is launching a new creator-owned title with writer B. Clay Moore called The Further Adventures of the Whistling Skull, which I think is a great title. I just want to say it again. The Further Adventures of the Whistling Skull. But the cover art, I mean, Tony Harris is a great artist. I love his stuff in Ex Machina, and the art, just the look of it, you can probably search the web and find it real easy. It's got this strange sort of kind of steampunk feel to it. So it looks like it's going to be an interesting book. It describes as a pulp noir book taking place in the 1940s. The Whistling Skull is actually a title that's handed down through the ages and whose holder is destined to fight a shadowy evil. Ooh, mysterious. So, no, but it really, I mean, the art looks great and the premise just like sounds so fun. To me, that's the kind of stuff that I just love to see in comics, something different. We also had God of War #1 sell out, which Wildstorm's had a lot of success with their video game tie-ins. And it says that also the Gears of War comic will pave the way for the recently announced Gears of War 3. So they're really working hard to just, tie all this together, having the comic tie-in with the game that's coming out. I mean, that takes a lot of coordination between, the comic company and the video game company. So that's pretty cool that they're doing that.
Yeah. They seem to be doing the best in the industry with that.
Yeah. And apparently doing some pretty good stories, for God of War to sell out. And yeah, I realize it's catering to fans of the game, but that's exactly what it's meant to do. So more tie-in news, TV tie-in here, the TV show Fringe, which Wildstorm's already done a short series with that. They're going to do another miniseries called Fringe, Tales from the Fringe, which I didn't get too much news about it, but it's my understanding that it'll focus on each of the characters. I've heard good things about that show. I've not had a chance to watch it. A lot of people have described it as kind of like the modern day X-Files. And so that's pretty interesting. And speaking of X-Files.
Nice segue.
Yeah, nice segue. Not planned, I promise. But speaking of X-Files, this is one of those crossovers that you're like, wow, why didn't they do this before? And it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it just makes sense.
Yeah. X-Files is going to cross over with 30 Days of Night. And have you read 30 Days of Night? Any of the...
No, I just saw the movie, I didn't get to read it.
Oh, poor...
Yeah, I know.
No. Just forget the movie.
I know.
And just go read the comics, because the comics are really good, especially the first one. And it's going to be by Tom Mandrake, and it's going to come out in July. It's another 6-issue miniseries. And I'm actually pretty curious. I'm not a big X-Files fan. I liked the series, but I didn't really follow it religiously. So I think I'm gonna at least pick up #1 just to kind of see what they're gonna do with it, and let that guide me from there. We also have news about Dv8. Dv8 is going to be returning to the regular Wildstorm U after Gods and Monsters is done. This was coming from editor Ben Abernathy was talking about this, because a lot of fans were asking, because obviously, as we'll talk about Gods and Monsters later, but it does take place in continuity. It's just a question of when.
Right.
So the good news is that we are going to see more of these characters, which is great, because as you see when we get to Gods and Monsters, it was a really great way to reintroduce them to people, not just to fans, but to everybody. Apparently, Gen 13 will remain bi-monthly for the foreseeable future, and I'm sorry, but I have to give a boo to that one, because I just, I mean, you'll see, we're going to get to that one in a minute too, and it's so good, and it's like, oh, just make it monthly again, please, So, here's a nice one. Here's a nice little tidbit they gave us. When asked if they're going to do anything else with Team 7, they mentioned that Team 7 will return, but no further details were given. So, more teasers, more, Ben Abernathy's good at teasing, I'll tell you that. I don't know if he's the one who controls the Twitter on Wildstorm a lot, but they throw out some stuff down on Twitter sometimes that they're like, oh, we have so-and-so doing a book, but we can't tell you who it is or what it is, and it's like, well, thanks,
See, that return's going to have to be much later in the year when all the books kind of come back together around December, because right now everybody's split up.
Yeah.
I don't see how else they can do it unless the carrier returns.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably what's going to happen, because you're right, they are all split. Everybody's split right now. So.
Yeah, and they mentioned, I don't remember when they did, but they mentioned everything kind of coming back together in December. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. So, and I mean, it's a full year's worth of story, so they're going to have plenty of time to develop whatever they're got planned for those titles.
Yeah.
And let's see. Oh, speaking of which, I just want to thank Ben Abernathy for defending the Wildstorm universe when a fan asked, why not just fold the Wildstorm U into the DCU? And he pretty much said no. And I didn't get his direct quote, but I was just like, thank you, Ben, for defending the Wildstorm U.
That would break my heart.
That would break a lot of fans' hearts, and the Wildstorm fans are few and far between now, so there's not many of us left. And I really honestly don't. I just don't understand why they think that would help. I mean,
I don't either.
One comment though that was made by I don't know who answers the Ask Wildstorm questions at the boards, but whoever did, they mentioned that the plans are to keep the Wildstorm universe small and manageable. Approachable was the word. And I was like, that's interesting that they're actually taking that into consideration. That they want the line small enough to where not only can you get into it, but you can pretty much follow the entire universe, like we said, for about $12, maybe 15 now with Dv8 and Welcome to Tranquility coming. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cheap to follow an entire world.
It really is. I think it's great. That's why I've stuck with it so long. You can't even follow Blackest Night for that.
That's
much.
right.
And that's just one series.
Yeah. Jim Lee still has no plans for his Wildcats that he started in 2006. Although all they said was Lee hasn't forgotten about it. So whatever that means, we don't know. They've mentioned in the past that he wants to make it into a graphic novel and just kind of release it like that, which if he does, it'll be great because it's Jim Lee and people will buy it, and I'm sure it'll be great. How relevant it'll be at that point, we don't know, but...
It doesn't matter. It'd be great, but it's not going to happen until he gets through the DCU online. Once that's out the door, he ain't touching it, I guarantee it.
Yeah. Well, although, an interesting note on that, Tim Seeley mentioned to check out Wildcats 23, which I think is next month, for more about Jim Lee's story that he started. And when asked about Stormwatch, they mentioned that the team will stay scattered throughout the other titles for now. So basically that means no new Stormwatch title. So at least the characters are still active. And we did get, one last thing to mention, we did get a lot of advanced solicits for August, a lot of trades coming out. We got the final Stormwatch PhD trade, which is called Unnatural Species, which finishes off that series. And we've also got the Gen 13 Teenage Wasteland trade, which collects the second half of Mike Huddleston's and, God, who was the writer on that? That run that leads into the current one. A couple of creator-owned books that are getting collected are Killapalooza and Red Herring, which just came out in the last year. Didn't get to read either one of those, so I'll get my chance now. The trade's coming out. So anyway, so everybody's tired of listening to me, man. So.
No, that's okay. A lot of news came out of that show, and I'm kind of wondering, did they hold anything back for San Diego? Because that's a lot of information. All right, so let's get started on the reviews. We have Gen 13, number 35, written by Phil Hester and art by Creditorian. This issue, I mean, they keep doing the really nice introductions of these issues because they are bi-monthly, and it's honestly really helpful that they're doing that. Because, you get that skip month and you're kind of not sure what's going on. The remnants from Gen 13 and Gen 14 are kind of just wandering the plains in the States as far as we can understand. Roxy, Grunge, and Rainmaker are off on the carrier, and everybody else is kind of left behind. To kind of just I don't even know if they have a direction really. Runt is powered up in his large state, and he's kind of stuck where he can't power down, and they can't even find him a Snickers bar to get down to normal size, and he keeps passing out and almost crushing everybody on their trek through the plains.
Well, they say it really satisfies, so.
Yeah. It's interesting. This issue is narrated by a new character that they come across about halfway through the issue, and his name is Pathcutter, and he kind of sees this ragtag group as somebody that can help him and the people that he is leading to supposedly a promised land in Idaho, which
land of potatoes.
Yeah. I don't know how this little town in Idaho got unaffected by the whole World's End event, but I guess we'll find out in the next couple months. This book, it's a good book. I wish we had it monthly, because honestly, it's so hard to pick up every time and be like, all right, what's going on now? Like,
yeah,
it seems so stunted, and I know they have the story there. I just don't know if it's the time or the money that they want to throw into it, why it's bi-monthly. I'm not really sure. But Caitlin is, the former leader of Gen 13, as far as we can, as far back as the book has been, really is jaded and has stepped down and is kind of become a caretaker for Ragdoll, trying to piece her back together. I feel like Caitlin's life kind of has been torn apart with everything that's gone on, and she's trying to piece herself back together, and I guess putting Ragdoll back together is a metaphor for that, and what has happened to the team around her.
Yeah. For a while there, I was kind of worried about the characterization when Ditto mentions the other Gen 13 kids' names, and she's like, "Don't even say their names," and she's like, "Why?
Yeah.
Why are they? Am I not worthy?" And I don't know. It just seemed a little out of character for Caitlin.
Yeah, she came off really cold. It's been a rough year for her, let's just say.
for the whole Wildstorm universe. But
yeah, honestly, yeah. I mean, you see these kids affected by it more than any of the other books. All the other books, the Authority and the Wildcats, I mean, they're still doing their thing. They're trying to patch things up. I mean, they don't seem emotionally affected by it nearly as much as these kids are. And maybe it is just because, they're kids. They don't have a real mentor to guide them through this process. And they're kind of just wandering, through
Literally.
the States. Yeah. and you see it is an emotional book for each of these characters. It's different than the other Wildstorm universe books that are out right now. They do run across this caravan, as I was saying, that's being led by this character named Pathcutter. It's funny because I picked up on this Book of Eli vibe as they're going through this journey, trying to find food and stuff like this, and they're like, "Oh no, we're not going to come across cannibal bikers, are we?" And they do. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Burnout finds the caravan of people, and of course they run across cannibal bikers.
Yeah, of course.
And and they go and they take them out. And what's interesting is as they do that, there's this really strange thing where they have to take these people's food and they don't feel good about it. It's exactly what the cannibal bikers are going to do. And they really don't have a choice but to do it. I mean, they're on survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of odd. I mean, you don't normally see superheroes kind of, stooping down to that level and, from their shoes. They really didn't have the choice. I mean, they needed to get Runt food or else he was just going to waste away, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it is, the Wildstorm characters in general are not strangers to tough choices, and kind of choices like this where it's like they didn't really get hired, I guess you could say, to take care of the biker gang, but it's like, okay, we took care of it, but we really need some food, and of course, Pathkiller has a good reaction to that. It's like, oh, so that's what's going on here, It's like you help us and then you charge us.
He doesn't mince words. He's pretty ticked off about the whole situation. Although, so the Gen, I guess we'll call them the Gen crew because they aren't Gen 13. I mean, they're both.
They were calling themselves Gen 13.5 there for a while.
Yeah, exactly. They get food for Runt. Runt is fine. Ditto's looking after him. Some weird thing happens with Ditto where, her third runs away, and I don't know how that would be for her because they're all her. That's just odd to me. I don't understand how she can lose part of herself.
A lot of psychological stuff going on with this book.
Yeah, it's different. And then Pathcutter makes himself known again back to the group. Really finally letting down his shield some and putting out a bid for their help to get them to this place in Idaho. Pocatello is supposedly unaffected by the World's End event, and so that's where they're headed. And I guess, the Gen 13 crew really, they don't have a place to go, so, what's their choice, really? So, they could protect this caravan as they go, or they can just keep wandering and scavenging for food like cannibal bikers are.
Yeah. Or they could join the cannibal bikers.
Yeah. So they agree to go along with Pathcutter and protecting them, and he kind of explains, what they're up against. He mentioned this machine church, which is robots. We don't know how they were created or anything like that, but right at the end of the book, we see, it isn't just a few; it's thousands of these robots that are on their way to attack this caravan.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the robots are going to get out of this. They're machines, but we'll see. It went from Book of Eli to Terminator all of a sudden in this one book.
Yeah. And, since they talk about the robotic church, there is the group in the Wildstorm universe called the Church of Gort, which was a creation of Alan Moore during his Wildcats run. And that's basically what it is. Actually, Lady Tron from the Wildcats is part of that church. Then they make an appearance in Christos Gage's Wildcats run, and that's basically what it is. It's a bunch of machines. If you're robotic based, you can be part of that church. Is basically what I understand.
That's right.
And so it's interesting that if this is that same church, why have they basically amassed, and which I think they were always about eliminating non-robotics, so that might be their motivation for this.
I was just going to say, this is the cliffhanger that we're left with. Hey, at least we have, we're looking forward to something, the conclusion of what are they going to do with these thousands of robots? Are they going to make it to this supposed promised land?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because things don't end well on the cliffhanger. And you want to talk about waiting for 2 months for something to get resolved. But no, it also this is Phil Hester's writer Phil Hester's first issue of Gen 13, and I've really liked his other work that I've read, and I think it's a good first issue for somebody who hasn't been reading it. I really do. I realize there's some things in it, like the whole thing of Fairchild trying to put Ragdoll back together, and it's like, okay, who's this and what happened to her, And, they do talk about the other kids, and if you haven't read the book before, you're like, well, who are these other kids they're talking about? So, obviously, it's issue 35. There is, and Gen 13 is a 15-plus-year-old comic, so there is some history. But, with all that said, this is a new group of kids that constitute the Gen 13,
That's right.
So, you can come here, and this issue does a good job of giving everybody's personality. In fact, some of the Gen 14 kids, you get to kind of see their personality more a little bit. You get to see more about Hardbody, a little bit about Windsprint, definitely more about Run. He had a, whole Gen 13 issue that he narrated, which I think was the last issue.
Yeah, it was.
So we really know him. You get a little bit more about Ditto. And then, of course, you got Fairchild and Burnout, who I already know, so I don't know. I'd have to go back and read it and think, does this show enough of them? But like you said, Fairchild is hurt. She's, hurting for her original group of friends.
Yeah.
And so for you to come into the book at that point and understand that about her is really all you need to know right now. And then hopefully, eventually, I hope she comes out of it, you'll get to see the Caitlin that we all know and love, because right now she's very bitter.
yeah, she's emotionally scarred. I mean, physically she can, dominate anybody, but I'm not sure she's up to that right now.
Yeah, you mentioned the Book of Eli. I actually had a Resident Evil Extinction vibe coming from her. She kind of looks like Mia Jovovich, the way she's dressed.
No doubt. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think overall, if you were just to pick up this book and you never read Gen 13 before, I think it's a good little showcase of the characters who are in the book right now. Mm-hmm. And it's the beginning of the story, so I think Phil Hester did a good job of setting this up, and I think Creditorian's art getting really good each issue. I mean, he just, I remember seeing his initial art and this one, and I put them side by side, and it's like, wow, it's just, he's just like anybody else. The more you do it, the more you improve,
It's a good fit for the feel of the book and the kids. I mean, it is still a teenage book, It's a good fit. I like it.
Yeah. Any thoughts on who Pathcutter might be? You think he's an old Wildstorm universe character who's kind of, because he's obviously masked. We don't know. We can't see his face.
That's true. I never really thought about it, actually. That's a possibility. I guess I didn't read into it that much, but yeah, I mean, they had in the previous Gen 13 issues, the last couple, they brought back some teen versions of old characters, so that's a possibility. It could be somebody that we already know.
Yeah. I want to say, and just based on his look without the mask, I want to say it almost looks like Jackson King's brother, Malcolm.
Oh.
Of course, he doesn't really display any kind of powers because I think Malcolm was all about psychic powers, or
Yeah, but I mean, Pathcutter does say that he can feel people,
mm-hmm.
and he can feel things, but he was having difficulty with the robots. So that's actually a good observation.
Yeah, and that's because I really don't know that character that much. I only really remember him from the early Stormwatch PhD run that Christos Gage did, and so yeah, I'm curious to see who he is. Who's obviously trying to cover his identity for some reason,
right?
So.
So did you have a rating for this book? What did you think?
Yeah, this one, if I remember right, because I didn't check the site before I came back, I think I gave it an 8, which is on its way to greatness, because I just really think Phil Hester got the characters, and I think also since some of the characters hadn't really had a chance to shine yet, he really gave them some life, and I just think it's a good issue for people to jump on. I really do, and so I hope people give this title a chance, even though it is bi-monthly. But hey, that just means you only have to spend the $3 every other month, you know. So
That's right. Yeah, I gave it a 7. It is a really good starting off point. But yeah, the bi-monthly thing, yeah, it saves you money, but you are craving that next hit, and it's hard to wait for it. So, but it'll be exciting to see where he takes it in the future.
now we're going to move on to what I think it's been considered the gem of the week for a lot of people online.
It's the main event.
Yeah. Yeah, this one, as soon as it was announced, months back, I know a lot of people were looking forward to this one. And of course, we're talking about Dv8 Gods and Monsters #1, written by Brian Wood and art by Rebecca Isaacs. And just to note, we also have a very beautiful Fiona Staples cover. And there's a Jim Lee variant. Yay! Everybody cheer. Jim Lee drew something. So
yeah,
and it really
I was a sucker. I was a sucker that went out and got that. Yeah. Yeah, in my local comic book store, yeah, they made me pay for it too.
Oh, really? That's just wrong. The whole idea of a variant cover has just been lost, I think. It's supposed to be on the shelf. It's like regular. Ooh, variant, it's like first come, first serve. Whatever happened to that, That's the way it used to be. At least the first variant. I mean, they start making all these fancy ones. Yeah, okay, fine. You want to charge a little bit more, but yeah. But I mean, it's a good cover. I mean, it's always good to see Jim Lee draw Wildstorm characters, but it's a great cover that he does. But and it's definitely different. His is more traditional, I think. Fiona Staples is doing something that's more. It goes more with the story,
Yeah, it does.
And Brian Wood, I mean, if you've never read any of his stuff, it's just he's just one of those writers that loves to make you think, and when he puts together a comic, I can tell that he's taking everything in consideration, even the cover, I mean, this cover is basically, it's showing Copycat. She's kind of in free fall, and they've had that image out for a while, and they actually added later this image of the primitive people at the bottom, and the Dv8 logo is right smack dab in the middle. It's not at the top like it traditionally would be, and it's this style. I wouldn't even know what to call this, but it's you see that logo, and that's, if I didn't know this was a Brian Wood comic, I would know right away that that's Brian Wood. That's just his style. If you would go look at DMZ or any of those other books he's done, his comics just have this certain style and look and feel to them, And I mean, we've got the title on the cover, the title of the issue. Basically what the cover looks like almost is like the title page, which is normally in the comic, which we do still get, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of you who don't know what Dv8 is, Dv8, is basically the evil Gen 13. They were planted as far back. If those of you who listened to the Gen 13 retro review we did with Image Addiction, you heard that by the end of that miniseries, there was little clues planted that Dv8 was coming. Of course, at the time we didn't know that, but reading it in retrospect, you do. You see it. And these were the kids. They're all Gen active, just like Gen 13 are. But they are all messed up. They are all psychologically scarred. They've been taught to use their powers to, for their own selfish reasons. I mean, just basically everything opposite of the Gen 13 kids. And they originally had their own series, ran for 32 issues, But the first 6 issues were actually written by Warren Ellis. And he originally stated he took these kids because they were so messed up. He actually identified it to the movie, which is called Kids, which is a pretty messed up movie. If you've never seen it. And yeah, so... But the thing was, like, I went back and I reread the trade, which collects Warren Ellis' run, which is Neighborhood Threat. And I don't know, it just, I usually like his stuff, but I just wasn't crazy about his Dv8 run. I mean, he obviously took advantage of some messed up stories, there's no doubt about that. But the one thing that was missing from that he normally does, that you can tell, is that there's normally an overarching story. And I didn't see it in his run. I don't know if it got cut short or what. The only overarching thing in the original was the fact that the kids started working together. And from there, I don't know where it went. But basically, after the series ended, I think they might have had maybe a mini-series or something. I don't remember, but they were gone for a long time. So this is the first time they've been back. Gosh, who knows how many years? It's been a while. Because their original comic started in '99. And it ran 32 issues, so you can figure it out from there. It's still been a long time since they've been on the stands. Here at Gods and Monsters, we are getting this story told to us from the point of view of Copycat, who apparently she's been captured by some mysterious force who's holding her prisoner and interrogating her and trying to find out about the rest of her teammates. And she is doing her best to try to remember. And apparently... whoever has her captured has shown her an image of what looks like Earth with some sort of bomb or something exploding in the southern hemisphere that looks like it's taking out a big chunk of the planet. With, and here's the interesting part, the authorities' carrier flying away from the planet. So we're reading a Dv8 book. We're following one of the characters, doesn't know what's going on. Apparently the planet, could be Earth, could not be Earth, we don't know yet, is exploding, and we have the authority. So Brian Wood's already got us wondering what in the world is going on.
Right, and this is 3 pages in, mind you.
Yeah.
I mean...
So, which by the way, I just got to say, that shot that Rebecca Isaacs did of the carrier flying away from the planet, it's just awesome. It is just such, I don't know, it her art and the coloring and everything, it's just like, wow, it's just epic, and that's the title page. So basically, she starts recounting that all she remembers is that her and apparently the other Dv8 kids were dropped literally from the sky onto this planet. They don't really know if it's Earth. They don't know if it's an alien world. There's some primitive people on it that kind of look human, and they don't know where in the world they are. Evo makes a mention that his senses don't pick up any technology, any civilization on the planet other than primitive, basically. Basically, the characters don't know what's going on, and we still don't know what's going on. But you know what? The way Brian Wood is presenting this, it is so intriguing. You're going through this comic, and you're trying to figure it out, and as the characters are trying to figure it out, every new little tidbit of information he gives you, it's just like, wow, that's really cool. Or, again, wow, and then you read a little bit more.
It's a great reintroduction to every single one of these characters.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you want to talk about a perfect point to start reading about these characters. This is it right here. I mean, it doesn't get any easier than this to reintroduce these characters. Even the simple little thing that he does of putting their names and their code names right next to each of them as they get introduced in the story. I mean, So simple, but so effective, So as we go along, then it kind of turns into a little bit of a horror movie. Remember in the Scream movies when they said one of the rules is don't say I'll be right back? Because that pretty much means you won't. Well, that's pretty much the rules that Brian Woods got here, because the kids are on this planet. They're trying their best to figure out what's going on, what they should do next. And then little incidences start happening where either one will wander off or something will happen and they'll get separated, and it's like one by one. It's like they're getting picked off by something, or not necessarily picked off, but they're disappearing one by one. So, they're on this planet, they're trying to figure out what's going on, and now all of a sudden somebody's taking each one of them one by one. Guerrilla style, I mean, you're just reading this and you're like, what is going on? I don't know what's going on, but this is so cool.
It's very dark. It's very intriguing. I mean, his writing it's amazing. I've never read anything by him, and to see these characters done by him, it's really cool.
Yeah, because since Copycat is narrating this whole thing, by the way, she gets to comment on the characters, and obviously she knows, they all know each other, for years, in their own continuity by now, they've known each other. And so she provides insight into each one, the things they're dealing with. Like, for example, one of the more interesting ones has always been Threshold, which is, originally started as one of Gen 13's villains, and then, came over to Dv8. And I mean, his whole thing is he hates, back in the Gen 13 miniseries, he hated that IO had created them, and he was all about getting back at them, and he's just full of, as they say, piss and vinegar. I mean, he's just, he is just angry as angry can be. And she's narrating how when he goes out, the night that he disappears, it shows a scene, no words. Here's where Brian Wood's storytelling and Rebecca Isaac's art merge perfectly. Small panel where he sees some natives, and just out of sheer frustration, I guess, uses his power to just make their heads explode.
Yep.
And then goes back to camp, and Frostbite asks, what happened? No, pretty much nothing.
Oh, I was hunting.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, wow. It's good to see the Threshold is still as messed up as he always was,
Yeah, he's a psycho.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, because he's this real militaristic, I'm the leader because I'm the most powerful, that's his take, on the whole group. And of course, I think the majority of the group, if not all of them, pretty much hate him. It almost makes you wonder why they keep him around. Well, because of his sister Bliss, I guess. So anyway, by the time we know it, we're down to, when everybody keeps getting abducted, we're down to just Frostbite and Copycat. Frostbite has some interesting revelations for Copycat when they finally do figure out what's going on. Why don't you share that, Ben? Because this is a cool revelation here at the end.
It's interesting to see. I mean, the first Dv8 series that went for 32 issues, that whole book was about these Dv8s basically trying to become a team. I mean, it took the whole run for them to actually work together. And then this very first issue by Brian Wood, they immediately disband. I mean, every single one of them goes off and picks their own tribe to mess up. These each have their own tribe of these Neolithic people that they can control because, I mean, they're gods to them in this world. I mean, they see their powers as magic. Each one of them, has their people and their influence over them, and you can see it clearly in the very last couple pages. Bliss creates this crazy pain and pleasure sex goddess group of warriors, and
that's my favorite shot in the whole comic is her walking along with her warriors and their little skull paint stuff. There's just something about that that's awesome. I love that.
It looks like a good Halloween costume right there. Good chicks.
Yeah.
Evo has these crazy pack rat feral warriors, I guess. I mean, he's like a scavenger. Not really sure what Threshold's up to. I mean,
beating the crap out of his tribe.
Yeah. And then Powerhouse is like the hippie of the group, I guess. I mean, he's taking in all the emotions and soaking that in. I don't know. It's it's interesting how quickly they split apart and are doing their own thing on this world that they have no clue about. They were just dropped into it, and instead of sticking together, they split apart. I mean, it took them so long to become a team, and then so quick to just jump out of it.
Yeah, but you know what? That totally speaks to their characters, though, because they are selfish. Everything it's about them. You know, I mean, they will. I mean, the fact that they don't even organize to go look for each other when they start disappearing shows you that. You know, I mean, from the original run, it's interesting that they kept this relationship between Copycat and Frostbite. I don't know how much that developed. I know in Warren Ellis's run, he kind of started that. I don't know how much it stayed afterwards, but it's interesting that they end up together with a tribe.
And that's actually a good thing that you mentioned that. I mean, I thought it was great that Brian decided to use Copycat as the person to introduce this book and narrate it, because in the original series, she was always kind of out of her mind because she had multiple personalities. You never really knew what was going on with Copycat. And in this book, she seems so with it. And to cover all this information for us, it's actually kind of refreshing, because in the original series, you never knew where she was, who she was. She was a spastic person.
And you know, now that you mentioned that could be part of what Brian Wood is messing with us with. You don't know. I mean, the fact that she is so together may be part of it. May be part of what he's messing with us with, because, you know, he's messing with us, but it's a good thing because it's great, you know. Yeah, I mean, the fact they are not a superhero team, you know, and he shows you that here in this first issue. It's not about, oh, let's band together, we're you know, against this common threat. No, I'm gonna go do my thing, and I don't care what you do, you know. Right. That's their attitude with each other. You know, I'm really surprised, honestly, that Bliss left her brother, because she's all in the old series. She's all about her brother, you know. Mm-hmm. And it just mentions real quick somewhere in there that they had a fight, which a lot of the stuff that was interesting. I've seen comments. If there's any complaint about this comic that I've heard, and it's very minor, because there's not much to complain about here, in my opinion. It's that some of the stuff that's narrated happens off panel. And one example is the fight between Bliss and Threshold. It's just mentioned that they have a fight, and that's when I think either Bliss disappears next or Threshold. I don't remember what the order was, but that would be the explanation of why she's separated from her brother, because that's her thing. She's all about her brother in some very inappropriate ways.
Yes.
So.
And I'm not. It's not really necessary that you see that. I mean, this really is a setup book, and it looks. I mean, if you look at the covers for the next, couple months solicit, it looks like we will be getting a different perspective from each member of the group.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like it's Copycat all the time, and the cover kind of looks like it'll dictate who the next narrator will be to flesh out this story.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think, is Powerhouse in the next one? No, or is it Bliss?
It's Bliss.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Bliss, Powerhouse, and then Threshold.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that too. It is cool to see that yeah, we're probably going to get different perspectives. And because I assume, obviously Brian Wood can take this anywhere, but I assume that if that's where we're going to go, that we're going to get each character's point of view and kind of how they brought their tribe together and what their motivation is. I mean, are they really going to destroy each other? I mean, are they going to have this big Lord of the Rings style war with each other, where we got the 5 armies or however many they have set up now,
Right.
Or really what is going on here, or some of them just going to be like, hey, this is my tribe and don't mess with us, or, we'll defend ourselves. I mean, he just left it wide open. here at the end, and that's great because you so want to know where he's going to take this. I mean, it's just a great book. I mean, it's a great first issue. If you've never read Dv8 before, this is the book to read. And you can go back and pick up the Neighborhood Threat trade if you want to just kind of get a sense of the characters, but you can start here and you'll be just fine. So, anyway, I struggled because I so wanted to give it a 10. I just sometimes I don't want to, push a book that high up. So I gave it a 9, which is still excellent.
I did too, because to me, I don't know what that mythical number 10 is, but yeah. This is close. I mean, I've never read anything like this from the Wildstorm universe, especially with characters that I already know in such a different light. It was really refreshing. It was an awesome read.
Yeah. Every
single page.
Yeah, and somebody at the Comic Addiction site who commented on the review I did, he was like, "Whoa, that's a high review or high rating," and something like that. And I just answered him today. I was like, yeah, it is. And I know there were some other people who thought it was good, but they didn't give it a real high rating. It's just refreshing. It's very satisfying. Is what it is. To just read a story about some of these Wildstorm characters that I have followed for years, and that it's this is meant to really make you think, really getting into the psychology of these characters a little bit. It's almost like a psychological study, and just the way that he presents each of the tribes at the end. It's almost like each one's going to be its own study.
Yep.
And that is so cool when any comic gets into that aspect, because I'm all for okay, we're gonna have the big blockbuster style story, like a summer blockbuster movie where it's all gonna be big fights and the characters show up and it's your favorite characters versus your favorite villains, and I'm all for that. But every now and then, just like in my taste in movies, I love a little independent movie, Yeah. And that's
what Wildcats is doing right now.
Yeah.
This is
Wildcats is the Michael Bay movie right now.
Yes.
This is the little foreign film. But thing is, this is the one that would get the Oscar buzz,
Yes.
Because it's the little film, it's kind of like Slumdog Millionaire or something, It kind of got the buzz and got the buzz and got the buzz and then won the Oscar, And yeah. I really feel and I hope that that's what turns out with this comic, because I really have seen just across the net, seen pull lists and things, like a Comixology and some of the iFanboy, some of those sites, that the pulls on this were really high for a Wildstorm book, So this was just a really good team to put together. Like I said, Brian Wood's writing was really good. Rebecca Isaac's art was amazing. I mean, it really is good. I really look forward to seeing what she does each issue I think she hit it every panel, just like a movie, like a still shot from the movies. I think she got it. So anyway, so that's Dv8 number 1. If you haven't got it, should be on the stands. Go out and try it.
I just want to mention the other titles that have come out for the weeks of 4/14 and 4/21 that we didn't review, that you can go pick up if you're interested. There's Dante's Inferno, number 5 of 6 that released, the video game tie-in. Ex Machina Special Edition number 1, which is part of DC's What's Next, that they put out for $1. I think we have the Authority number 1 coming out pretty soon. It's kind of along the same vein as titles are ending. They seem to put out these special editions to get people excited about the conclusion. Free Realms number 8 of 12 has released, and Supernatural Beginnings End number 4 of 6 has released. And I also wanted to mention, when you guys listen to this, we have a free comic book day coming up on May 1st, which will be at the end of this week. So head on out to your local comic book store and support them and pick up some fun free swag that we'll all be picking up.
Yeah, on those ones you mentioned, I actually saw a little bit of the Dante's Inferno anime that was based on that, and it was not very good. So,
Oh, really?
so I hope Crystal's Gage, who's writing the Dante's Inferno comic, I'm sure he did a much better job. And yeah, and also for the Supernatural fans, just to let you know, one thing that's cool about that series, they do photo covers. So it's like, you know, you're looking at everything on the stands, and all of a sudden you see the guys from the show on the cover. And it's like, oh, that's cool. You know, something different, because that way it doesn't blend in with everything else.
Right,
So,
it sticks out.
yeah. I also want to mention that the Tom Strong Deluxe Edition Volume 2 is out, and you can pick that up at our sponsors, which is InStockTrades.com. They've got it for $25.19, which is 37% off the cover price, which is normally $39.99. And like I said, that's Tom Strong, The Robots of Doom has come out in June, so if you've been catching up on Tom Strong, here's the next one. You can kind of get to know that character a little bit better. I know, like I said, that's on my read list.
Yeah, I love those hardcover deluxe editions that they put out. I mean, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, and if you don't have the first one, which I assume, I didn't even look, I assume it's there in stock, you could probably grab them both and get the free shipping, because I'm sure you'd hit $50 real quick by by getting both of those.